Hello there. Probably most of you are aware that due to a regrettable turn of recent events, the Commander Rules Committee has stepped down, and thus the complete responsibility for the Commander format has essentially been passed to Wizards of the Coast, who were quick to announce their initial vision of a power level or power bracket system. This included categories of cards from 1 to 4 based on their power level, with the following examples given throughout the live. 1 will include cards that can go in any deck, like Grave Titan, Swords to Plowshares, Polluted Delta and Soul Ring. 2 will include average power cards like Fabricate and Talia Garden of Traben. 3 will include higher power cards like Personal Tutor and Dranit Magistrate, and 4 will include very powerful cards like Vampiric Tutor or high sword cards like Armageddon. There was mentioned a possibility that this bracket will include pairs of cards, for example Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation, as a 4 only if both are in your deck. I really like this idea and would expand further on it, that all 2 card game winning combos should be in bracket 4, all 3 card combos in bracket 3, and all 4 and up in bracket 2. There was an example given with Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood as bracket 3, because they cost 10 mana. I think that is wrong, as the mana can be broken down between turns, and those cards can be good enough on their own while they are in play, and are certainly not dead cards, unlike say Thassa's Oracle or Demonic Consultation, who while cheaper, are still dead when the other card is not in your hand. Another thing that was mentioned in the live was that there will be no separate ban list for CDH. Is that so? I think that in practice, the presented system creates not 1, but 4 separate ban lists, as its intent is to prevent decks of different power levels to play against each other. Let us not kid ourselves. Bracket 4 will have to include all CDH staples, including but not limited to mana accelerators, all 2 card combos, and most stack species like Smokestack, Winter Orb, and Stasis. It also will seemingly contain good stuff cards that are often played in CDH, like Vampiric Tutor, and if I remember correctly there was also a mention of Mystical and Enlightened Tutor as well. If bracket 4 looks like what I described, I would be generally happy with it, even though I would personally prefer CDH to simply be separated, with its own ban list, and have a lot of stuff unbanned. For the most part, brackets 2 and 3 were left undescribed in detail, but going off the little initial information, I generally agree with them as well. However, I have a big issue with bracket 1. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Soul Ring is not a power level 1 card. It does not contribute to fun new player experience, regardless of the fact that it is so-called staple. It is in every precon, and everyone has access to it. It is a card that skews games by setting your turn 2 at 4 or more mana, either giving you unfair advantage or making you the main target of the 3 other players at the table. Instead of a boon, I also think the wide accessibility and almost a rule to include it in every deck is a big detriment to the card and the format as a whole. This is also something that Gavin talked about in the live, that the supposed Wizards of the Coast desire is to move away from streamlined deck building, where every card autofills itself with your commander, Soul Ring, Command Tower, Arcane Signet, and whatever next auto-include card is printed in the future. So if that is the desire, simply move Soul Ring to at least power level 3, if not putting it in 4 outright. Another problem with bracket 1 was the given example of Polluted Delta. In no world is this power level 1 card. Let us compare it to Evolving Wilds. Both are fetches. Both can mana fix you and both are in bracket 1. Delta searches for card type and can get basics, duels, shocks or triumphs, with the first 3 entering untapped 99% of the time. Wilds on the other hand only searches for basics, and they always enter tapped. How are these cards that seemingly have the same basic function the same power level? At the very least, I think Polluted Delta should be in bracket 2. Now some more thoughts on the overall idea that was proposed. For the most part, I am very supportive of it. I like that this system completely eliminates the human factor of rating your old deck by eyeballing its supposed power level, and instead locking it into a certain bracket based on an objective parameter, the cards that you actually play. Even though it is not a complete separation, Bracket 4 will by default get reserved for CDH decks, and decks that are not CDH but previously lacked to run mana creep and similar cards will have to play only against each other or versus CDH level decks, which will be a sight to see indeed. In my opinion, this will dramatically limit the possibility of pub stomping, which is a great benefit both for online EDH and pay-per-play in local game stores or other events. I like that the brackets are only 4, well 3 if we exclude the CDH bracket. Even though this supposedly squishes a lot of decks into only 3 categories, this is a positive thing given the initial stated desire to make it so that decks play only against our decks with the same power level. If the categories were more, I believe it would create problems for matchmaking, and it would make it harder to segregate individual cards into their own category. Yet there is still a lot of work to be done on this proposed new system, in order to fine-tune it. I've already mentioned that infinite combos need to go into each bracket based on the number of cards required to combo off, but also Wizards of the Coast needs to be objective as much as possible, and not meme on us by saying Soul Ring and Polluted Delta are power level 1. As final thoughts, I think the last year, maybe 2, were good for Magic. I've seen a lot of solid reprints in boosters and in precons, and a general improvement in art and storytelling. And based on this, I think Wizards of the Coast deserve a chance, and an honest feedback to which they hopefully listen to. As always, thank you for watching. Cheers!